Hi, today I'm going to be explaining a differentiated learning strategy that can be used with a student with a disability. The particular disability that I want to focus on today is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The particular strategy that I'm going to discuss today is called the personal agenda, and it can be found in the book The Differentiated Classroom by Carol Ann Thomason. The academic learning goal for this lesson is that the student will be able to determine how an author's purpose affects the tone and perspective of a text. The social learning objective for this lesson is for the student to be able to follow directions to successfully complete a work period task. We all know that that's a problem for students. That's difficulty for students who have ADHD, is that they often lose focus or they are easily distracted in class, and they often don't complete their classwork. So this is a strategy to ensure that they will be able to complete their classwork, or at least it increases the probability that they will complete their classwork. Okay, so to use this strategy, what the teacher does is the teacher gives, at the beginning of group work where the kids are working in groups, the teacher will give the student with ADHD a chart. Okay, it's an agenda in the form of a chart. Okay, it's a 3-column chart, and in the first column, the teacher is required to put their signature. And the second column, the teacher explains the task, or the teacher takes the task and breaks it down into smaller steps. And in the third column, the teacher gives the student specific directions on how to complete the task. So I've decided to use this strategy with author's purpose. So the student's task for the work period is to write a short response that explains how the author's purpose influences the tone and perspective of the text. So they have read the text, they're familiar with the text, we've discussed the text a little bit, so the students are very familiar with the text. Now it is time for them to complete the work period activity. So in the middle column, the second column of the chart, where you are actually breaking the task down into smaller pieces for the students, you should have steps, right? So the first step of my agenda for the student would be to read the text and highlight important details. Then I would further break it down after you are done. Now determine the author's purpose and complete the first couple of sentences of your short response. The students also have a graphic organizer that is called Raft. And Raft is a graphic organizer which breaks the short response down into steps. So you have R is restate the question, and A is answer the question, F is find examples, and T is tie it together. So you're tying your examples and your answer together, sort of explaining how they're connected. So after the student have read and highlighted the text, the next step for the student would be to determine what they think the author's how they think the author's perspective is affected by purpose. And they record this answer in the first 2 columns, the R and the A parts of their Raft graphic organizer. The next step is for the student to find details. Now, this should be pretty easy to do because the first step was that they had to go through and highlight important information, right? And so now they need to go back to that information that they found and figure out which would be the best details to include in their short response to support their answer. And they write it in on their graphic organizer. As the students are completing these steps, the teacher is constantly going back to the student and checking and making sure the student is focused and signing off that they have completed each step. Right. The third step would be the tie it together, where they would have to explain how the details they have chosen relates to their answer. So it's a little bit of elaborating, not just taking words from the text and putting it to, putting it on the page. And this part, those little specific details would be explained in the third column of the chart. So now the fourth step for this student is to now take this information that they have included in this graphic organizer and transfer it into a paragraph. Now, in the specific details part of the chart, the directions that I have put would be to make sure you add transitions and to make sure your writing flows smoothly. So now, as the student, have gone through, you have checked off everything and you have signed off on everything, and by doing this, you increase the chances that the student completes the work period activity. And that's very important for students who have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because a lot of times they get distracted, especially when working in a group. So this is sort of a way to help them monitor their own focus and how they're paying attention, and it gives them sort of the tools to go off on their own and complete a work period activity. So again, this strategy is called the personal agenda, and you can use it with students who have attention deficit disorder.